Good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam Narodova. I would like to welcome you to our XEVMPD webinar. I hope you will enjoy it. Before we start, I would like to make some short introduction for you. Please note that this webinar is recorded, so if you do not agree with this, you are welcome to leave the session. If you have any technical issues, please contact virtual meetings at emea.europa.eu. I will put this also in a chat. I would also like to ask you not to ask any questions in chat because we will not be monitoring it. We would use Slido for any questions. So please feel free to use it. You can see the slide at the moment on the screen. I will also put all the information in a chat. My colleagues, Marcos and Veronica, will introduce the XEVMPD, so they will be leading the presentation. And after this presentation, we will have a Q&A. And after Q&A, we would also like to welcome our colleagues from Service Desk with a new service now that we just launched at EMA, and they will give you a quick demo to you if you are interested. So we can start. Welcome again and enjoy.
Thank you, Miriam. So yeah, as Miriam was saying, please use a Slido to raise any question you might have. You can use the code that you have here. If you go to slido.com, you would be able to join the Q&A. You will be able to see the questions that other people is raising, so you can also vote for those questions. And at the end of the session, we will have the Q&A where we will be answering or try to answer most of the questions that we will receive during this webinar. So a little bit of introduction and the agenda. What are we going to present in this webinar? First of all, we will give an introduction, which is the XEVMPD context and which are the pre-submission requirements that we have. Then we will go through a summary of reporting requirements for marketing authorization holders and for sponsors. So we will split the different process to submit authorized medicinal product data and also development medicinal product data. Then we will talk to you a bit about the XEVMPD customer services that we are running internally at EMA. We will present some statistics around XEVMPD. At the end of the webinar, we will also have a new and planned improvements that we have developed during this year, and we will be developing in the next year for XEVMPD. And something that is a really hot topic those days, which is the relationship between XEVMPD, PMS, and Daddy. So we will have a couple of slides including some information around that. We will have around 30 minutes of a Q&A session, and at the end of the meeting, we will introduce you ServiceNow, which is the replacement of Jira or Service Desk. So there will be a presentation around that. So let's start with the introduction of this webinar. So as you know, which is the context of XEVMPD. As you know, XEVMPD stands for Extended Vigilance Medicinal Product Dictionary. So here we have a database of all the authorized medicinal products in Europe, but there is a broader scope as well. We not only have authorized medicinal product data, but we also have development medicinal product, which is this information is submitted by MA holders and sponsors. And this database and all the data that we have in XEVMPD is consumed by different processes and systems internally at EMA, but also externally. So for example, we will have PMS and the Daddy variation form. We will talk about this later, but we also have other systems and processes like CTIS to identify medicinal products that are studied in different clinical trials. We have EV, which is connected to XEVMPD for the individual case safety reports, the ICSRs. We have EVDAS. Different regulatory procedures like referrals or PSURs are also connected to XEVMPD. The calculation of the pharmacovigilance fees is also taking data from our database. EMA website where we made available different information about medicines is also taking data from here. For the pharmacovigilance and risk management issues, we also connect XEVMPD to what we call the EPID. And it's also important to notice that the PRAC, so the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committees, requesting data from XEVMPD. So we have different processes, different systems that are consuming the data that we have in XEVMPD that is provided by the MA holders and the different sponsors. We have those different systems and those different processes, but then internally in the XEVMPD database, we have several data stewards at EMA that are running different services. So we have data services that we will cover later. We have also customer services. We do data quality management, and we also do data publication. Each of those boxes that you can see here, we will explain in more detail in the upcoming slides. So let's start from the beginning. So which are the pre-submission requirements that we have from MA holders to provide data of their authorized medicinal products? And let's have a look also of the requirements for sponsors that are going to submit data for the development medicinal products. The first requirement and the most important ones is that sponsors and MA holders must be registered first of all in OMS, so in the Organization Management Services. There is a guidance we will share with you these slides, and you will be able to see all the information here. So everybody should be registered in OMS and also in EUDRA Vigilance for medicinal product reporting. The responsible person or the QPPB must be registered under the headquarter profile of the organization, and at least one person from each organization should have followed the XEVMPD training course. They should have passed this training course, and they should have received the notification of successful completion of this training. In order to have this certificate, there are two ways of attending the training on XEVMPD. You can follow the e-learning training course, or there is also a face-to-face training. For the moment, it's done virtually, but these are two different options that you can follow. If you want to follow the e-learning training process, this is the process that we have to be able to register to the e-learning. First of all, you need to submit a request to be registered to the e-learning via Service Desk. Now and later we will explain you Service Desk is going to be replaced by ServiceNow, so you will have to open a request through ServiceNow where you need to request for the e-learning assessment. We usually received among 10 to 15 requests per month. Then we assess this request. We have 5 working days as a late to register you, ask for you for more information that might be missing. If not approved, because, for example, you have exceeded the number of people that can be registered in your company for the e-learning, then we advise you to follow the face-to-face meeting. Now it's virtually, but we advise you to follow this one. And if it's approved, then we provide you with the document and with credentials to be able to log into the XComp environment where you can work there, and you can provide us with the documentation that we are asking you to provide. So then once you have performed the assessment, you submit the documents again within the same Service Desk ticket, in the future the ServiceNow ticket. We have 5 working days to perform the assessment. In the case you pass this knowledge evaluation, then we provide you with the notification of the successful completion of the training that you will use for the registration. In case you fail, you still have another 2 attempts for each of the failed parts. And in the case that the user fails the 3 attempts, then we advise again to go to the face-to-face training course, because in this case you will have more information, you will have a teacher, etc. So you will be able to have more information there. In the case that you are not able to do the e-learning, then we have this face-to-face training process. Again, now this is done virtually. You have to register for the specific training, which is in a specific date and in a specific course with DIA. Then you attend the training, you perform the assessment, you submit your documents that are evaluated. If you pass, then these results are communicated to EMA, and we send you the notification of successful completion of the training that you will use for the registration. In case you fail, you still have again 3 more attempts that you so you can have 2 more attempts to pass the exam. Once you are registered and you have access to EV and you have to start submitting the data, it's important for you to understand that you have 2 ways of submitting the data to XEVMPD in an electronic format. The electronic format is the XEVPRM and can be done to 2 different paths. The first one is the user interface or the web trader. You use the XEVMPD data entry tool, or you can use the gateway. So it's the system-to-system communication that you can use to provide the data to XEVMPD. After each submission, you will receive an XEVPRM acknowledge as your submission has been done correctly. Now, Veronica will explain you a bit more of the process on how to provide this information.
Morning, everyone. And this slide will include an overview of the services that are managed by the EMA data stewards. In general, what we perform is a content validation of newly authorized medicinal products, as well as validation of information for medicinal products which were subject to regulatory change, for example, a variation or transfer of marketing authorization. We also perform regular compliance checks related to the submission of information on medicinal products authorized under the centralized procedure. I will provide further details further down this presentation. On a regular basis, we also publish a list of medicinal products authorized in the European Union and the European Economic Area. We also publish various controlled vocabulary lists, such as pharmaceutical forms, marketing authorization holders, which are entered in the XEVMPD, routes of administration, and we maintain and publish updated documentation. In terms of data quality management, we perform regular checks of validated data and send follow-up communication to marketing authorization holders to request the correction of the data or further clarification if they were not submitted in line with the guidance and principles described in Chapter 3.2. The follow-up communication is mainly related to the submitted attachment, invalid QPPV information, or missing PSMFL reference. With regards to the mandatory reporting requirements for marketing authorization holders, marketing authorization holders must submit to the XEVMPD information on medicinal products authorized for human use under the national, mutual recognition, decentralized, or centralized authorization procedure in an EU member state, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, and also in Northern Ireland. This legal obligation comes from Article 57.2 of Regulation number 726 from 2004, the EA Agreement, and the Protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. New authorized medicinal products must be submitted as soon as possible and no later than 15 calendar days from the date of authorization, and amendments to the terms of marketing authorization following a regulatory procedure such as variation, transfer, renewal, suspension, revocation, or withdrawal of the marketing authorization must be submitted in the XEVMPD no later than 30 calendar days from the day of which the amendments have been authorized. Marketing authorization holders may also submit to the XEVMPD information on registered herbal and homeopathic medicinal products, medicinal products authorized under the named patient use and EU distribution procedure, parallel distributed and imported medicinal products, medicinal products authorized outside the EU or EEA or following a non-EU procedure, and products without marketing authorization in the EU EEA, which are provided under emergency use, compassionate use, or other national schemes. These submissions can be made on voluntary basis or due to pharmacovigilance obligations or legal obligations enforced at national level. The data, again, should be submitted based on the principles described in Chapter 3.2 XEVPRM user guidance. The upcoming slides will provide you with an overview of the submission process and follow actions related to AMPs, so authorized medicinal products. When a medicinal product is authorized, the marketing authorization holder has got 15 calendar days from the date of authorization to submit the data in the XEVMPD. The data, as I mentioned before, has to be submitted in line with the principles and processes used and described in the Chapter 3.2 XEVPRM user guidance. The AMP information must be inserted based on the information in the regulatory document, the SMPC or product information leaflet. Marketing authorization organization, pharmacovigilance system master file location, and QPPV information must also be included and referenced in the authorized medicinal product entry. Also, the supporting documents such as the SMPC, PIL, or other regulatory document must be attached to the product entry in the XEVMPD. Following the initial submission, there's a technical validation which is performed by the XEVMPD. This technical validation is a check if the mandatory data was provided in the submission as per the technical business rules, which are described in Chapter 3.1 technical specification and in Chapter 3.2, which is the business guidance. The result of the technical validation is then communicated to the marketing authorization holder organization through an XEVPRM acknowledgement, which is generated by the system. The acknowledgement confirms the submission, whether or not it was successfully completed, and also the result of the operation type assigned to the data, which means the insert, update, invalidation, or nullification of the data. The acknowledgements are provided to the sender organization within 24 hours since submission. Within 2 weeks from the initial submission of the medicinal product information, the EMA validation team perform a content validation of the submitted data and standardize the data if it is required as part of the validation. The validation is performed based on the information which is provided in the supporting documents, again, the SMPC and the PIL, or any other regulatory document attached to the product entry in XEVMPD, on the principles and the guidances which are described in Chapter 3.2 and in the data quality control methodology document, which is published on our guidance documents, and based on the rational assessment of the submitted information. When the outcome of the validation can be that the product entry is validated with or without changes which were made as part of the validation, or the product entry is not assessed. I will now follow the process of the product entry is validated with or without changes made as part of the validation. In such case, the marketing authorization holder is informed about the changes performed or the validation through what we call a third level acknowledgement. This is again sent to the sender organization through XEVMPD. Once the medicinal product record becomes validated in the XEVMPD, the AMP data, except for the master file location and QPPV information, because these are considered confidential, will become visible to other users in EVWeb, not just to the owner organization that submitted the data and the EMA. Also, that record will be used to support pharmacovigilance activities. In case the marketing authorization holder disagrees with the changes which were made as part of the validation, or if there are any additional questions and comments, we would ask the marketing authorization holder user to log a ticket through the service desk. If the Article 57 quality control validation team cannot perform the validation of the product entry, for example, the SMPC is an unreadable document, or there are other issues, the marketing authorization holder will receive a follow-up communication. We send these follow-up emails on a weekly basis. The marketing authorization holder should then amend the medicinal product entry as required or provide the additional documents within the timeline set up in the follow-up communications. So it's usually 15 or 30 calendar days, depending on the type of correction that requires to be made. Every 3 months, we extract a report of AMPs for which a follow-up was generated, and we'll check if the product entry was updated or not. We then attempt to revalidate the record again. If the marketing authorization was subject to a regulatory procedure, such as variation or transfer, the marketing authorization holder should notify this change in the XEVMPD within 30 calendar days from the date of which the amendment was authorized. The marketing authorization holder updates or inserts, invalidates the AMP data in the XEVMPD as applicable, again, based on the different business processes described in Chapter 3.2. Supporting documentation also must be attached to the updated or amended product entry. Again, technical validation is performed. The result, again, is shared through an XEV PRM acknowledgement. And the validation team perform a content validation of the submitted information based on the information in the documents, Chapter 3.2, and data quality controls methodology. Please note that no further validation is performed on AMP records that were nullified or invalidated. We perform revalidation of updated product entries as needed or within 2 years since the last validation. As I mentioned previously, we also perform a compliance check to ensure that marketing authorization holders enter data on medicinal products which are newly authorized under the centralized procedure within the required timeline, which is the 15 calendar days since authorization, and that marketing authorization holders notified the transfer of centrally authorized medicinal products in the XEVMPD within the 30 calendar days since the changes were authorized. We perform these checks every 2 weeks. As part of the checks, which are related to the submission of new centrally authorized products, we compare the number of presentations in SIAMET, which is a EMA internal database, with the XEVMPD product records which were inserted in the XEVMPD by the marketing authorization holder. If the marketing authorization holder did not insert the centrally authorized product data in the XEVMPD within 15 calendar days since the authorization, we contact the QPPV of the company and ask for confirmation when the record will be submitted. We also check if the product was successfully validated by the quality control team or not, and what is the reason in case the AMP was not validated. We then enter the product information in the European Pharmacovigilance Issues Tracking Tool to support the exchange of communication related to pharmacovigilance and risk management issues between the EMA and member states, and in the scientific group table here at the EMA to support pharmacovigilance activities. With regards to the transferred centrally authorized products, we check if the transfer of marketing authorization was performed correctly, and if not, we will again contact the QPPV as required. With regards to publication, on monthly basis, we published a list of medicinal products authorized in the EU EEA. Every 3 months, we publish a series of XEVMPD controlled vocabulary list, as I mentioned before. For example, the MAH organizations in the XEVMPD, pharmaceutical forms, routes of administration, list of approved substances in the XEVMPD, etc. And as and when required, we also update the relevant documentation such as the guidance documents, Q&A documents, or publish new information. With regards to reporting requirements for sponsors of clinical trials, sponsors must submit in the XEVMPD information on an active substance used in a clinical trial in a new pharmaceutical form or in a new strength, and also medicinal products not authorized in the EU or EEA, which are used in a clinical trial in different indications or routes of administration. It is a legal obligation as per Article 81 of CT3 Regulation number 536, and the detailed guidance on the collection, verification, and presentation of adverse event reaction reports arising from clinical trials on medicinal products for human use, also referred to as CT3. The sponsor should provide the information on the development medicinal product in the XEVMPD before completing the clinical trials application form. And whilst the legislation does not cover the update in the dictionary, it is required to maintain the information up to date in Clinical Trial Information System, CTIS. Unauthorized medicinal products are entered in the XEVMPD by the sponsors as development medicinal products. In terms of the submission process, As part of the initial submission of the DMP data in the XEVMPD, the sponsor must insert the product data in line with the information which is present in the investigator's brochure and the principles which are described in the guidance on submission of investigational medicinal products by sponsors. The sponsor must also insert a sponsor organization entity in the XEVMPD and reference this organization in the development medicinal product entry. If the required active substance is not present in the XEVMPD, the sponsor should request the addition of the substance from the substance management service using the process which is described in the aforementioned guidance. Once the sponsor submits the DMP information in the XEVMPD, technical validation is again performed. This is again to check the mandatory data is provided in accordance with the technical and business rules in place. The acknowledgement is then sent to the sponsor organization. If the development medicinal product was successfully inserted, an EV code is available in the XEV PRM acknowledgement. The entry is automatically flagged as valid upon the initial submission in the XEVMPD. There is no dedicated content validation by the quality control team here at the EMA with regards to development medicinal products. The sponsor will then reference the EV code in the clinical trial application form or uses it to retrieve the code in CTIS in combination with the active substance which is referenced within that product code. The development medicinal product code or information indeed is not recorded, is not visible to other users in EVWeb. It is treated as confidential in the XEVMPD. Very limited development medicinal product data is visible to clinical trial information system users to prepare the clinical trial application. DMP details will only become fully visible to CTIS users after the clinical trial application is submitted. In case the DMP was not successfully inserted in the XEVMPD, no EV code is available. The sponsor should refer to the XEV PRM acknowledgement to check why the medicinal product was not inserted in the XEVMPD and correct the mistake which is described in the XEV PRM acknowledgement and resubmit the message. If you have any questions as to why the product was not recorded in the XEVMPD, you can obviously contact the EMA service desk where we provide you assistance.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So now we move to the XEVMPD customer services presentation. So here we want to give you a little bit of overview of all the customer services that we provide at EMA. As you already know, and I've been replying to several questions that you have in Slido, whenever you have a question, whenever there is an incident with the system, whenever you have a request, you have to log a ticket into service desk. From now on, it will be a service now, but that is another topic. So what we usually do is we reply to those incidents, requests, and questions that we received for authorized medicinal products, for development medicinal products, and also incidents that we have with the system. So what's the process internally and externally for EMA to work with these requests or incidents that we receive? First of all, the user, so you submit a ticket through Service Desk or ServiceNow. There are three different types of tickets. We have the incident, so if you have any issue with the system, you discover a bug, you have a problem because you don't receive the acknowledgements, or there is any technical issue with the system, then you have to raise an incident. In the case you want us to amend the data on your behalf because you are not able to amend the data. So for example, you need to amend data on invalidated products, or you need to nullify products that cannot be nullified by you. If you have also requests for the XEVPRM acknowledgements, if you want us to revalidate a medicinal product, etc., then you have to raise a request. And the last type of ticket that we have are questions. So any question, any business question related to the e-learning, related to the follow-up questions that we send to you every week. Anything that you have a question, then this is the type of ticket that you have to open. Then once we received all those tickets, we have a team internally at TMA who is doing the triage of those tickets. So they are responsible to assigning those tickets to the responsible team. They are also where they also apply the different SLAs. Once the triage has been done, what we do is we split we have two different teams. In case there is any support needed from IT, then those tickets are assigned to IT. They investigate and they provide, they fix the system, they provide you with the information that is needed, or in case they need to make any data fix, they prepare it, and then after a couple of days, the data fix is performed. This is for the incidents that we receive with the system, but we also have these business issues or the data issues. In this case, or in those cases, the ticket is assigned to the EMA data manager. We assess the incident, the request, or the question. Once it's assessed, if we foresee that we need the support from IT, then we assign the ticket to our IT colleagues, and they prepare the fix that is needed. In case we don't need IT, then those tickets are assigned to us. We correct, we provide the answer. If there is a request for the e-learning, then we evaluate the assessment, we register the user, etc., etc. As you can see, also we have different SLAs depending on the type of ticket. So for incidents, we have 5 working days. For requests, we also have 5 working days, but for questions, we have a bit more time. The SLA is 22 working days. So as we have been saying during the whole webinar, and you will have also a presentation at the end, we have moved already from Service Desk to ServiceNow. So right now, if you have any issue, any request, or any question, you should go to ServiceNow. We will provide you more information later. In ServiceNow, you will see here in the on the top left screen, you will see that you have the applications or ask a question. In case you need to raise a question, then obviously you have to go to here, ask a question. But if you want to open any issue or request, then you have to go to applications. In applications, you will see here different domains. In this case, you have to go to the sport domain, where you will be able to see, apart from SMS, OMS, RMS, etc., you will see the request from XEVMPD or Article 57, and also report an issue on XEVMPD and Article 57. In the case on the request, so we have already said, if you need us to amend data on your behalf because you are not able to do it, so nullify valid entities, you need us to amend information on invalidated authorized medicinal products, you need us to bring back to valid status a record that is invalidated, if you want us to validate or revalidate records, requests for previous EV codes, any request related to the acknowledgements, if you want to include additional terms to the control vocabularies or the registration to XEVMPD, you have to open a request. Here in this box, you will need to include your name. You will be able to look for it. In the watch list, here you might be able to include any additional colleague that you want to have a look at this issue. This person should be registered also in ServiceNow, so you can include the name here, and then you will have to include the description as you have done in Service Desk until now. In relation to the issues, the process is more or less the same. You will have to include your name. If you want any colleague to be also aware of this ticket, you can include the name here. You have to specify the subject. Here, we would really like you to help us with the triage. So if there is an IT issue or if it's a data issue, it would be really nice if we can have this information here, because it would help us for the triage, so your issue will be solved earlier. So if you can include this information here, that would really help us. Then you can include the description and also the urgency of the issue that you have found, or any issue that you might have. For the questions, again, you can go to ask a question. You will have here this option that request for information, where you will be able to include any question that you have for us. Again, this is the same aspect as the request and the issues. You will have to select the service offering, then you have different options. You have Eudra Vigilance Article 87, you have nullification substances or update product. You will be able to select anything that is needed. Here you also have the different topics of the questions. So any business or technical question, how to submit data to XEVMPD, the follow-up communications that we send you, and Veronica has explained related to the QPPVs, related to the master file locations, etc. You can provide us more information using the questions. Then any question related to the XEVMPD training, submissions to XEVMPD for development medicinal product, and also additional functionalities. Like I have a question about the bulk update or the export tool, anything that you might have a question, you can use this channel. You will have a presentation at the end of the webinar for the service now, so don't worry, we will show you everything there. Now, we would like to move to the XEVMPD statistics. So as we have already explained, we have different services performed by the XEVMPD team. So we have the authorized medicinal product validation for new products. We also validate the some of the updates that we receive to those authorized medicinal product. We do the CAP compliance check. We have the customer services, so we reply to all the incidents, questions, etc. And we also have this data quality management. So we do this QC and the QA. We do the follow-up communications, etc. So now we wanted to give you an overview in numbers so you can see which are the volumes that we are working with. So on this graphic that you have here, you have two different bars. On the left side, you have the total number of records. So in this bar, we have included the total number of products or records that we have in XEVMPD. Here we include the authorized medicinal products, development medicinal products, but we also include the nullified and invalidated records. As you can see, we have almost 1,400,000 records for authorized medicinal products, while for the DMPs we have almost 16,000. This is again counting the nullified and invalidated. If we focus only on the total active validated records, so here we are counting authorized medicinal products, development medicinal product, but we only take the validated ones and we exclude the nullified and invalidated, we have more than 600,000 records for authorized medicinal products and around 9,000 development medicinal products, which is a lot. On the next graphic here, we are showing you which is the rate of change for authorized medicinal products. Here we have the volumes for Q1 of this year and Q2. On this blue light color, you can see the new records that we have received in each of the quarters. So we receive more than 10K new records every quarter that we have to validate. And also you can see we received almost 150,000 updates every quarter. So as a summary, in XEVMPD, we received 10 times more updates than new records. But as you can see, we receive a lot of updates and also a lot of new records during the quarters through the year. On this graphic here, the record validation task. So as you already know, we aim to validate all new authorized medicinal products. So in 2021, for example, we validated more than 50,000 new records that we received. And this year, so counting Q1 and Q2, we have validated already more than 20,000 new records that we have received. Taking into account the total active validated records, we validated last year almost 80,000 updates. This year we have already validated more than 45,000, so we might end up the year increasing the number of updates that we have validated. In an average, more than 20% of the updates that we received are validated at the end of the year. Based on this validation, we also do an audit. So whenever there is a product that is validated at some point, we make a triage of random products, and we audit that the QC that has been done by the validation team is correct. Last year, we validated 130,000 products. Of those, almost 35,000 products were audited, and we found only 1,000 errors. For this year, the trend is more or less the same. This graphic would tell us is that only 3% of the records had any error in validation. Most of the errors, and we have it split it here, are coming from indications. So indications is really a kind of a subjective data element. So we have found more errors on indication. Then we have also found 1% of the errors are coming from the pediatric use indication comment. And also in the renewal date, the excipient, it's also 1%. If we count the, or if we see the service desk in numbers, in 2021, we received around 457 requests, more than 1,000 questions, and only 32 incidents. In Q1 and Q2 this year, we have already received 351 requests. This is because now the e-learning process is running in service desk, so that's why the increase on the requests. We have received half of the questions that we received last year, so we might end up the year with the same amount of questions. And we have received more incidents already this year. This is in principle due to the data quality issues, so validations that you don't agree with. So you open an incident in service desk where you say, okay, I'm not in agreement with this correction or this validation, please check. So we have received a bit more incidents this year. Nevertheless, in taking into account the SLAs, we have successfully met the SLAs with more than 94% of the service desk that has been closed within the SLAs. The last one is the customer satisfaction in numbers. So at the end of the year, we send you a customer satisfaction interview. So what we ask you here is several questions, and we ask you to rate the quality of the regulatory data management service, in this case for Article 57 and XEVMPD. We have received more than almost 10,000 users replied, and we only received 30 data quality incidents. So at the end here, the data quality, it's quite good because we have received only 0.3% of the users that have reported a data quality incident, and the average of the service is in principle good or excellent. And I pass again now to Veronica to cover this, which is new and planning in XEVMPD.
So I would like to name a few improvements that we have introduced in the XEVMPD or in general since 2021 to improve customer experience and awareness. We have made available a new web page, guidance document, FAQ document, and also a training course specifically for sponsors to assist them with the submission of data in XEVMPD. We also provided them with recommendation with regards to the submission of product name in developing medicinal products. The recommendation is not to include the pharmaceutical form and strength of the active ingredient in the product name, as this information is considered commercially sensitive. The following Microsoft announcement that Internet Explorer version 11 will be retired from 15th of June this year, we have investigated several alternatives that would allow EasyWeb users to access the user interface after this date. The IE tab extension for Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge was identified as the best alternative, and we published instructions on how to update the license key which was provided by the EMA for the IE tab extension. We also published instructions on how to access EasyWeb using the tab in the EV restricted area. As we've mentioned before, from the beginning of this week, the EMA introduced a new service desk tool. We will provide more details related to this tool and how to use it later during this presentation. We also planned to to publish a new updated version of Chapter 3.2 towards the end of Q4 of this year. In terms of how to maintain and improve regulatory data in XEVMPD, we introduced new legal basis and authorization procedure values in the XEVMPD to support the voluntary submission of medicinal product information for medicinal products supplied in the European Union or the European Economic Area that fall out of scope of Article 57.2 requirements. This allows organizations supplying products without a marketing authorization in the EU EEA, which are provided under the emergency use, compassionate use, or other national schemes, to correctly record and identify such products in XEVMPD. In the past, marketing authorization holders were unable to nullify duplicated or obsolete marketing authorization records if such organization was referenced in an invalidated AMP record. That means if the record contained one of the not valid marketing authorization statuses. Marketing authorization holders can now nullify such organization, providing that it is not assessed by the EMA, even if such organization is referenced in invalidated AMP. If the marketing authorization organization, which requires nullification, is validated by the EMA, then the nullification should be requested through the EMA service desk, and the EMA will perform the nullification on behalf of the MAH. Some EVWeb users may have noticed that we now perform an automatic update of non-current Medra version in EVWeb if the users perform a reinsert or an update of an AMP record which previously referenced a no longer current Medra version or outdated Medra version. The system now also flags any deprecated terms referenced in the AMP during the validation of the XEVPRM before it is submitted, so the users have a chance to update this term. Excel button is now also available to allow users to extract results in EVWeb Trader inbox and outbox. Web Trader users can therefore now download their XEVPRMs in Excel files. It is no longer restricted to just the first 50 XEVPRMs as it was in the past. In January, we amended our internal AMP validation rules to reflect the changes regarding the establishment requirements of marketing authorization holder, QPPV and PSMF located in the UK, which were introduced by the European Commission. I will provide you with a brief overview of the possible locations of the marketing authorization holder, QPPV and PSMF on the upcoming slides. Based on the new information, which was made available by the European Commission at the end of December 2021, it is acceptable for medicinal products with marketing authorization valid in Northern Ireland for the MAH to be established in the rest of the UK, not just in Northern Ireland or in the EU EEA. It is also acceptable for the QPPV and master file to be located in the rest of the UK, not just in Northern Ireland and the EEA, if the organization does not already have a QPPV based in the EEA or Northern Ireland. This is mainly relevant for newly registered organizations. With regards to products authorized in EU member states, it is acceptable for medicinal products authorized in Ireland, Malta, and Cyprus under the mutual recognition procedure or the decentralized procedure that the marketing authorization holder is established in Northern Ireland or the rest of the UK. As we know, this was previously not the case. And for medicinal products authorized under the centralized procedure, the MAH, QPPV, and pharmacovigilance master file must be established in the EU member state or Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein, which means there is no change with regards to these establishment requirements for centrally authorized products. With regards to what we plan to improve for the next year, in January 2023, we will publish the last controlled vocabulary lists. From then on, marketing authorization holders will be expected to download the required lists, such as substance list, marketing authorization list, referential lists, from the respective SPOR domains. At the moment, the lists are published quarterly, and they are available on the guidance document webpage. We are discontinuing it from January 2023. And you can download it, as I said before, from the Substance Management Service for substances, marketing organization lists from the Organization Management Service, and referential terms from the Referentials Management Service. We also plan to organize another XEVMPD webinar in Q1 and Q2 of 2023. And we plan to change the submission rules of marketing authorization details in the XEVMPD. As you might be aware, at the moment, the marketing authorization holder information is submitted in the XEVMPD in accordance with the information which is present in the SMPC. Our plan is to change the submission rules so the marketing authorization holder organization details are submitted in accordance with OMS rules instead of the information stated in the SMPC. We will also make available a second language code field for attachments in EVWeb. This second field will be optional to be populated. This means that marketing authorization holders will be able to use this field to reference another language code in an attachment to indicate that the same attachment contains information in 2 languages. This is especially valuable for combined Finnish and Swedish SMPCs. We also plan to define a process to restrict or block the submission of development and proposed terms in the XEVMPD. The idea is that the marketing authorization holder or sponsor users should actually use available standard or proposed terms, which are already available, instead of creating new ones. If the required term will not be available, the term should be requested from the Referentials Management Service. We will publish further communication and instructions on the process to be used next year. We also plan to develop a process on replacement of substances which should be nullified in authorized and development medicinal product entries. Again, we will provide further communication and instructions next year. And lastly, new authorization status will be introduced to include pending products to support the use of Daddy variation form.
Okay, thank you, Veronica, for all these updates. The last part of the webinar, well, our last part, then we will have again the service now. I wanted to talk to you about the relationship that we have with between XEVMPD, PMS, and Daddy. So as you know, or I mean, we have had several webinars also related to Daddy and PMS. PMS is going to be fed by the XEVMPD data, and then the Daddy variation form will be using the PMS data. So there is an interconnection between what the MA holder is submitting to XEVMPD, what PMS is going to take from XEVMPD, and what the users will see in the Daddy variation form. And the idea is that we can reuse all this data. As you may already know, and if not, I'm telling you, from the end of Q1 2023, PMS will contain information coming from XEVMPD and from SciAmed. Here you have a data model. It's a simplified data model from PMS. And there in the legend, you have that the yellow fields are coming from Article 57. So data in PMS from, for example, from the medicinal name, the medicinal product name, the attachments, the master file information, the QPPV, therapeutic indications, data from marketing authorization, and also the pharmaceutical product and the ingredients and route of administration will be migrated from XEVMPD to PMS. for both caps and non-caps, so centrally authorized products and non-centrally authorized products. We also have some information that is going to be migrated from SciAmed. This is the EMA internal database containing only centrally authorized product data. In this case, we will migrate information about the orphan designation, also product classification, the manufacturers, information related also to the packaged medicinal product, the manufactured item, etc., etc. So this is the data model that you can see, where we are going to take data from XEVMPD and we will migrate it into PMS, and it will be consumed by Daddy. Therefore, you will be able to see the data that you have in XEVMPD that we will migrate in PMS, and you will be able to see it through Daddy. Nevertheless, at the go live of Daddy and also at the end of Q1 2023, when there will be another release of Daddy that will support caps and non-caps, you will be able to see only specific fields coming from PMS. Daddy will then release at the end of next year more capabilities, so the full data model for PMS will be visible through Daddy. But for the moment, only the fields that you have here will contain data coming from PMS, and you will be able to see them through Daddy. In the future releases as well, the full PMS data model will be available through the Daddy variation form. So these are the 12 fields that you are going to see in the Daddy variation form. So you will be able to see the name, the strength, the authorized dose form, also the domain, the PMS ID and MPID that is generated by PMS. You will have information about your active substance or active substances, MA number, or MRP-DCP numbers, who is the MA holder, the country of authorization, and also the authorization status. So this information in the second release of Daddy, which is planned for end of March next year, you will see the data that is coming from XEVMPD. Now, we know that there are a lot of questions related to the products that I have in XEVMPD, how the migration is going to be done to PMS, what happens if I cannot find products that I have in XEVMPD, if I logged into Daddy and I cannot see them, what can I do because my product is in XEVMPD? So we have tried to summarize some of the most important questions that you might have. The first question is, what happens if my product is out of a scope of Article 57 requirements? Will I be able to see this product in the Daddy portal, or in case I need to use the Daddy variation form, how can I do it? So if your product is out of a scope of Article 57, so for example, herbal, homeopathics, or some other legal basis, but you want to use the Daddy variation form for those products, then you need to submit these products to XEVMPD. This the process to submit these products is already in place. So you can submit products that are authorized outside the EU, but you can also submit your herbal medicinal products. You can submit your homeopathic that are outside of Article 57. But in case you want to use those the Daddy variation form for those products, then you need to provide this information to Article 57. So you need to submit this new product. There is already available information on how to submit herbal and homeopathics, for example, but there is a specific group of products, such as the French product register under Article 14, that we are working together with the PMS team to check which is the best way to provide the information to XEVMPD, and we will provide this information in due course. What happens if I cannot find my product in the Daddy portal? So I know my product is in XEVMPD, but I cannot see it in the Daddy portal. Then what you have to do, or you will have to do, is first of all check that your product is in XEVMPD. You also need to check that the authorization status is a valid one. So it's valid transfer or is valid, or because Daddy won't show non-valid medicinal products. You also need to check that the MA holder that is assigned in XEVMPD is correct. So the MA holder name is correct, and also the address and the EV code. In case you still don't find it and the information is correct, you need to check OMS and confirm that the mapping between the EV code and the OMS ID is correct, because this is how we are assigning the which products you are able to see in PMS and in Daddy. Then you also need to check that you are logged in the Daddy portal with the same MA holder or organization. And if you have checked everything seems correct, then you might need to raise a ticket so we can check which is the issue. Maybe it's a technical issue or it's a data quality issue. You might need to raise a ticket. Then what happened if the data that I see for my product, which is coming from XEVMPD, is wrong? So what happened if the authorization status that I see is wrong? What happened if the active substance that I see is wrong? How can I correct it? Well, once the Daddy variation form for caps and non-caps goes live, so in March 2023, XEVMPD PMS and Daddy will be synchronized. That means that any change that is done to XEVMPD will be propagated to PMS, and therefore you will be able to see it in Daddy. Therefore, if there is any change that you have to do in XEVMPD because the data in XEVMPD is wrong, then you can just send an update to XEVMPD and it will be reflected in PMS. Now, if the data is correct in XEVMPD, but you see it incorrectly or is wrong in the Daddy portal, then you need to raise a ticket, because that means that the mappings that we have been working with are not correct. So you might tell us, okay, I have this in XEVMPD, but I see this in the Daddy portal. Can you please fix the mappings? And we will have a look to the issue. Talking about updates in XEVMPD, if you perform an update to XEVMPD, when can you expect to see this change in the Daddy portal? So as I told you before, XEVMPD PMS and Daddy will be synchronized. The idea is that any change that is done to XEVMPD will be propagated real time. So it might take around 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how many messages we have to process. But the idea is that it will be almost real time. We have also received comments that for some non-centrally authorized procedures, so for example, MRPs and DCPs, we know that some national phases might take a lot of time, and therefore you don't have your authorization for this product in place, but you need to provide variations. You need to use the variation form for those products. XEVMPD, as you know, is only for authorized medicinal products, so products that have already been authorized. As Veronica explained, we are working together with the PMS team and us as the XEVMPD team to include a new authorization status. So those products that are not authorized yet, but will be authorized and shall be used in the Daddy variation form, can be included. The idea is to include a new authorization status, so there is no disruption in any ongoing process. So they won't be included in the pharmacovigilance fees. ICSRs are not disrupted, etc. So this is foreseen to be in place before the Daddy variation form becomes mandatory, in principle in September next year. But please, for the meantime, do not submit any of those products to XEVMPD, because we don't have this authorization status yet. We will announce and we will provide you with more information once we have created this new authorization status and this new process to provide this information. So key messages for this webinar, specifically for XEVMPD and PMS. First of all, the development medicinal product submissions should be done in XEVMPD for the foreseeable future. So for the moment, there is no change here. DMPs should still be submitted to XEVMPD. For the pending authorized medicinal product submissions, the ones that, for example, the national phase has not finished, but you need to use the Daddy variation form, we will announce when this new authorization status will be in place. This will be done before September next year, because it's when the mandatory use of Daddy will be enforced. For the new voluntary authorized medicinal products that you want to include in XEVMPD, because you want to use the Daddy variation form for them, you can already start submitting those products because they have been included by different applicants for a long time already. Then authorized medicinal product submissions, so submissions to XEVMPD. This will still happen at least until Q4 2023. And XEVMPD will be synchronized with PMS. But for the moment, we are not decommissioning the XEVMPD submissions. They are still in place. In relation to the data enrichments to PMS, so to provide additional data that is not in XEVMPD, but will be in PMS. For the moment, it is not possible until at least Q4 2023, when we will roll out a plan to release all these capabilities to enrich and reuse the data. There will be also a transition period, and we will give you more information. But the message is that for the moment, it is not possible to enrich data to PMS because the capabilities to do those enrichments are not in place yet. The long-term goal still remains. So the long-term goal is that we want to replace the XEVMPD submissions. So instead of doing through Article 57, they will be done through PMS for both CAPs and non-CAPs. But for the moment, as I told you before, XEVMPD submissions remains because we don't have the capability yet to start doing the submissions to through PMS. So thank you very much for all your for attending the webinar. I think I've seen that you have raised a lot of questions in Slido. We've been trying to answer most of the questions, but I think we still have several questions that we have not answered. If you have any question, you guys still have time to go to slido.com, introduce here this the code. And I think we have around 20 minutes before we go to the ServiceNow presentation, and we can go to the Slido, and we can start answering some of the questions that we have. So let me, I think we have already replied to some of the questions. So for example, here, it is anticipated to upgrade Eudra Vigilance XEVMPD environment to make it compatible with another Internet Explorer. So I think Veronica has already covered this, this question. There will be, I mean, we have investigated and we are using ITAB because it's the best way we have found for to run XEVMPD. So for the moment, this is what we are using. And I think there is already a reply there. So if you want to have a look, yeah, feel free to do it. We have another question here. Does ServiceNow replace Service Desk for XEVMPD support only, or also for all the other EMA platform and services? So as far as I know, what we have, so SPOR is the first service that have moved to ServiceNow. The idea is that the rest of the services will also move gradually to ServiceNow, but I think maybe we can provide you with more information. I mean, offline after the webinar, because I know our department, so I know that SPOR, PMS, SMS, OMS, and also XEVMPD have already moved to ServiceNow. Okay. So are we expected to maintain UK licenses on XEVMPD because of the Northern Ireland implication? In turn, if a UK license become a GB license, should we withdraw the license on XEVMPD? So I think Veronica has also covered this this part in her presentation. The idea is that Northern Ireland applications are mandatory in XEVMPD.
That is correct. And with regards to GB licenses, you do not need to submit this, the information about these products in the XEVMPD as per Article 57 to legal requirements. You can, however, submit these on your voluntary basis if you wish to do so.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So we will keep the questions for ServiceNow because we will have the presentation later now in 15 minutes. So I think it makes sense that we have the presentation for ServiceNow, because most of those questions might be answered in the presentation. We have another question for the e-learning. So I have completed my XEVMPD training in another company, linked to my old company email. It is acceptable in the current company. So yes, the certificate is assigned to a specific person, not to a specific company. That means that if you have, if you've get the certification and you move to a different company, you can still use the certificate that we have provided to you in your previous company. There is a Q&A document for e-learning. If you go to the e-learning webpage, at the bottom you have a Q&A link, and everything is explained there. You can. It's interesting if you can have a look. Okay, when day 0 will be considered for XEVMPD? Is the date of approval, or is it the day when MA holder received the official notification of approval from the respective authority? So there is also a Q&A document where you can find all this information, and the 15 calendar days starts from the date of the notification of the granting of the marketing authorization authority. So you can also find there the answer. There are also examples of specific cases or specific scenarios when you might not, for transfers, for example, when it starts the 15 days notification, etc. You can go there, and it's really useful, the document. We might also include the links to those documents in the slides. Okay. In EBWeb, it is not possible to download, save the XML files. The button is missing, and the Control S does not work. It is planned to add this function again, and maybe for downloading the zip file is a lot more time consuming.
So if you are using the IETAP extension, you should be able to download your XEVPRM XMLs using the Control S functionality. If this is not the case, I would like you to raise a request, an incident through the EMA service desk so we can investigate. Please provide screenshots and any further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. We have an interesting question here. What are the consequences of BRICS timelines for XEVMPD submission? So either the 15 days or the 13 days for 30 days for the by the MA holder. So we have received actually several questions from NCAs, because NCAs might open an investigation in case there are no submissions of data to XEVMPD, because they are also using the XEVMPD data for their internal purposes. They might open an audit to the company if there is missing data or missing records submitted to XEVMPD. But there are also consequences, because you might not be able to continue other regulatory processes. So ICSRs, for example, you have the you also have the PESUR submissions, etc. We also receive comments from the inspections internally at EMA to check if there are QPPVs that have not submitted also the information. In case you foresee that you might have a delay on the submission or any update or any new record, there is a process. You should open a question in ServiceNow, including the reason why you have a delay on the submission, which are or how many records are impacted, and when you foresee that you will provide information to XEVMPD. So we can track this, and in case there are any uncompliance, we can provide information there. We have a question for a development medicinal product. So we are planning to conduct a post-marketing clinical trial. Do we have to submit substance-related information in XEVMPD as a development medicinal product, because the product is already authorized in the country?
So if the product and the substance are approved, then if you are planning to use that medicinal product in your clinical trial in a new pharmaceutical forms or for a new strength, then you do have to insert a new DMP in the XEVMPD.
Okay, thank you. So Which would you rather recommend to use for XEVMPD, Edge or Chrome?
We have tested with both and find that they work quite well for both. So I think it's just a personal preference, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. How long does it take to receive the third acknowledgement? So I think we have also a long reply here in Slido. So new authorized medicinal products that are included in XEVMPD, we have 2 weeks to validate this record. And as soon as the record is validated, you should receive the third acknowledgement. Then we have the updates. So the updates are not validated automatically. We validate the updates based on capacity and allocation of the validation team. So as soon as the record has been validated, you should receive the third acknowledgement. So if for new authorized medicinal products, you have not received a third acknowledgement within 2 weeks, which is the time we have to validate those records, then you can raise a ticket in service now saying, I submitted this record 2 weeks ago, I have not received anything, so we can provide you, because maybe we have not validated it for any reason. Maybe you have a follow-up communication and that's why we have not validated your record. You can always ask and we will provide you with more information. So I think we have a technical question for the EMA service desk via two-factor authentication. I don't know, Veronica, if you have any answer. If not, we recommend you to maybe raise a ticket, because this is very technical for us. It's not really XEVMPD, it's more an issue with service desk. So I would recommend you to raise a ticket so you can.
We can also keep this question for when we have colleagues talking to you about the new service desk, and they might be able to answer.
Okay, more questions we have. In Greece, MAA, no changes every time a variation is approved. If the variation is not linked to a safety variation, nor to a change in the SPC content, do we have to enter the MA number in 30 days, or we can do this in a regular basis, 3 months? So I don't know if I understand this question. So anytime there is a change in the SMPC or to XEVMPD data, you need to provide this information within 30 calendar days to XEVMPD. It doesn't matter if the MA changes or not. You just need to provide information that has been changed as part of the variation. If the MA number also changes as part of the variation, there are some countries where after a variation or a renewal, the MA number changes, then there is another process, but you still need to provide this information. It's not something that you can do on a regular basis every 3 months. There are timelines that you need to follow following every variation that impacts the XEVMPD data. Now we have here this question regarding the Liechtenstein XEVMPD entry. So what is the timeline for a Liechtenstein XEVMPD entry, considering that the LI authority provides no formal MA approval? I think if you go to chapter 3.2, we have all the information regarding Liechtenstein, because you can use the authorization from Germany and from Austria, if I'm not mistaken right now. So you have also all the timelines and everything there. So please go to chapter 3.2, where you will be able to find all the information related to the authorization in this country. Okay, we have 7 more minutes, I think. So does the national translation of the substances from the product information still have to be added literally to the control vocabulary substances, or is it sufficient when a similar translation is already available? I don't know if you can provide here more information, Veronica.
I think the best person to check would be somebody from the SMS team. So I would advise you to contact the SMS team through the service desk again.
Okay, yeah, I think it would be the best idea. So Any news about IDMP requirements, implementation, and deadlines? So, at the end of the presentation that I did, you have there some information regarding PMS implementation that is it's going to be implemented because we are supporting Daddy. IDMP is something bigger because we also have OMS, SMS, and RMS. As you might know, we are running this week and next week several webinars for all the services in SPOR. So we recommend you to attend those meetings or those webinars because we will provide you with more information on all the requirements, which are the news that we have for IDMP and for the different services of SPOR. If we talk about also the implementation of PMS and when PMS will become mandatory, we will also provide more information. There are several webinars that we are having also with the Daddy team because we are providing them with the support and therefore we have more information. I think the timelines that we have also included at the end of the presentation. So when the data from XEVMPD will be included in PMS, how to correct the data in PMS, how to enrich the data in PMS. These are already timelines that you can consider. For the moment, as we said, XEVMPD submissions should still remain. And the idea is to provide more information at the end of next year how the implementation of those next steps will be happening. And yeah, be in contact with us, check our webpage now and again because we will be doing more webinars and providing you more information on relation to this. I think this one we have already done it. When we have to amend medicinal product after validation team QC, it in 15 days or 30 days. So you don't have to amend anything. So once we do the validation or the validation team performs the QC of the product, you receive a third acknowledgement. The third acknowledgement might just say, we have not changed anything. Your product is now validated. You don't have to do anything. Or we can tell you, we have changed, for example, this indication by this indication, because we consider that this is more important. This is the correct one. In this case, you just need to check if you agree with the validation or not. In case you receive any follow-up communication, so for example, there is a missing attachment or the QPPB that is used is invalid, then you have 15 days to provide us with this information. If there is any other issue, then you have 30 calendar days to provide us with the information that we have requested to you. This is this one. We have another question. In January 2023, will the EVPRM change include EV code replacement by OMS Loc ID or Org ID for MA holder sponsors and by RMS ID for some CVs? There is no plan to change the EVPRM message. It will remain the same. What might change is in case you want to have any new term in EV, then you might need to request it, for example, through RMS first. So it's not that we need the RMS ID, it's just that we need to have the term in RMS and the term in EV. So when we do the synchronization also with PMS, so it can be used in Daddy, we have the mapping correctly done. And we are not changing for the moment anything on the EVPRM to link it with the OMS Loc ID or the Org ID. So here there is no change on the EVPRM message. If a sponsor of a clinical trial decided to change the name of the medicinal product, the development medicinal product, oh, sorry, I missed it. So for development medicinal product, what is the definition of day 0 for entering data into XEVMPD?
You need the EV code for your clinical trial application. So you need to enter the data about your development medicinal product before you file the clinical trial application.
Thank you, Veronica. So I think we have already reached the time when we need our colleagues from ServiceNow to give you the presentation so we don't run out of time. We see that there are still a lot of questions in Slido. We will try to make an export. You can still go there, have a look, because most of the questions already have a reply. So in case you find a question that is also for your interest, you can go and have a look, because most of them already have a reply. Said that, we will now move to the introduction of ServiceNow. I think I need to change the role of presenter. Okay. So I give you with our colleagues from ServiceNow that will give you a presentation of ServiceNow. You can still use Slido if you want for the questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcelo Namishas. I work in the digital workplace, and together with my colleagues, we have implemented ServiceNow. Let me share my screen. Right, I think that now everyone can see my screen, but I'm not entirely sure. Yes, I think that you can. Right, so what I'm going to talk about is the process that we have done to implement ServiceNow, or basically an overview. I'm going to talk about some training material, and then I will proceed with a quick demonstration of the portal and the mobile phone app. And then after that, we will go through a question and answer session.
Hi, Marcelo. Sorry to interrupt. I believe we cannot see the screen.
Okay. What about now?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. So yes, as I was saying, I will go through an overview. Well, as you know, we have the Jira service desk where we keep all our services, and we are moving to a new platform because the new platform offers cloud services and other benefits that the current platform doesn't, and also the current platform support is coming to an end. So we need to move everything from Jira to a new platform, ServiceNow, and we will do that in different stages. So the first stage, we started with the customer portal, the IT incidents and IT service request, and the mobile phone app. But that means that we will be working with two platforms in parallel. So we will have the old Jira service desk for change management, all the backlog of IT cases that were originally created in Jira. So those ones will remain in Jira and they will be closed in Jira. And then we will have all the non-IT incidents and requests. And then the other platform will be the new ServiceNow, which will contain all the IT incidents and requests. We went live on the 12th of September, so last Monday. And the links were communicated through the Jira and as well as through the corporate website. The training material that we have is a video. It's a 5-minute video that you can access it through Vimeo using the password that is on the screen. You can also find that information if you log into Jira. So this is the old Jira, and in here you have as well some announcement of the transition services from Jira to ServiceNow, as well as a link to the video. So this is it's quite helpful to familiarize yourself at your own time. As I am in Jira now, I can show you the services that were transferred or moved. So we moved some of the service requests related with IT, like permissions, access, and content update, like the one requesting software. Well, this one depending on the permissions. Some people may have a different visibility of different services. And the issues, for example, report an issue with an application, or yeah. So these are basically the services that we transferred. ServiceNow looks like this, for those ones who haven't seen them. Over here, we have on the top a banner with the news. So this is announcements that we can put on the spot to inform users about things like a system down or plant maintenance or anything like that. Although we also have that at the bottom, we have the system status. So if you click on the system status, you can see any plant maintenance or the current status updates. When clicking on the EMA logo, you go back always to the home screen. At the moment, because I'm logging as myself, I have a lot of different services, but if I impersonate some external user, we'll see that the number of services is reduced to reflect the permissions of that user. So for example, this user doesn't have access to the backend or doesn't have access to facilities because these are more internal services. On the top panel over here next to the logo, we have tasks for people who have some elements that are pending, like approvals or stuff like that. Requests will show any cases that were created in the past, and the status and actions, and that's where you can add comments or attachments or see if it is resolved and confirm the resolution or reopen it if you're not satisfied with the resolution and stuff like that. This particular user doesn't have anything in there, but if I go into my own, you will see there is a case over here, and in this case I can see the current statuses and if there is any attachments, additional information, and if there is any person, any colleague watching this as a customers, and so on. If I go back to the other person that I was impersonating, in here you have two categories at the moment. Later on, it may be others as we move through the different stages of the implementation. If we go to the IT area, we have different categories. For this particular user, we have the report an issue, the ask for question, elements related with the access and accounts and applications. I heard before that you guys were mentioning SPOR. So if we show the SPOR area, we can see different services that are currently in service now with regard to SPOR. The services may increase as we progress with the development and implementation of ServiceNow and the transition of services from Jira. But yeah, basically once that you select a service, you have to complete a form and then you submit it. There are fields that are mandatory, and those are represented with a red star, and also on the comment box over here. I mentioned before the watch list. The watch list acts as the equivalent of a CC on an email, but it is only for users that have access to the system. So you cannot add a generic email address over here because that email address will not have access to the system. The watch list is used in case the person that created the request or the incident is absent. So if there is any action pending, like a validation or a question or confirmation or something like that, and the main requester cannot answer that, the people on the watch list will be able to action that. Right. Over here, there is also element of cases active. So the task or request or surveys that you may have, whenever a case is closed, you have the option to add a survey about it. Over here, we have a main category of services. And at the bottom, we have some useful links and other information. Within the useful links, you also have the link to the all Jira Service Desk. And on the top, there is also some links over here for specific services that have not yet been migrated. Well, that is a brief demonstration of the web portal. And I will now show you the mobile phone app. For that, I don't know if I have permissions yet to share my screen on the mobile phone app. Let me see if I can. Share content. Share screen. Start broadcasting. I think that now you can see my mobile phone screen.
Yes, we can.
So you can download the mobile phone app called Now Mobile. It's the one on the top left corner. And once that you download that one from the marketplace or iOS or Android, once that you click on it, it will ask you to sign in, and you will have to use the EMA credentials, and then you will have to use the URL that it is the same URL as the web portal, basically support.ema.europa.eu. And then you will log in into a page that it looks like this. So in here, you have a welcome message. You have the same tasks that you could see on the web portal. You have request, and I can see over here the request that I have created in the past. This is the same that I was showing on my account. You have the option to report an issue on the spot. And then over there, you can complete a form indicating what is the issue about and the urgency. The urgency is an element that helps with the priority, but it's not the only one. So for example, if you set urgency high, but the impact is low, the priority may be priority 3. Yeah, just a quick note. So yeah, and then you submit it and that issue will be created. Then at the bottom, you have some telephone numbers that you can use for emergencies. Like for example, contact the IT service desk or contact the audiovisual. And it is quite straightforward. You just click on the number and the phone does the rest. On the bottom, there are also a category called services. And then those services will represent the same services that you see on the web portal. And that will be depending on the permissions of the different users. So if I come over here, I can see the user link registration, for example, services. Or if I go into, I think it was applications, I can see the sport, and then I can see all the relevant applications about the sport, services for sport. So yeah, the mobile phone app is a very handy tool to keep always on your pocket because you can follow up on cases on the go and create new ones as well. And on the top, there is a search option where you can type for different services. The same is on the portal, so I just forgot to mention that. If I type over here things like access, it will show me all the different elements that have that are related to access, and that include services as well as knowledge-based articles. Right. I think that concludes the brief demonstration of the web portal and mobile phone app. I think that we can now move to the question and answer session. I don't know if someone could share the slide.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. Okay, I hope everybody can see the screen. So we have the first question here. Our credentials do not work in the new service now, even after the password is reset. In the EMA account management, how can we contact the service desk if we cannot enter?
Well, we need to understand why the account is, why you cannot access. Basically, only individuals can access that. So we noticed in the past that there are a lot of people that are using share accounts or corporate account, and obviously those ones will have difficulties with two-factor authentication. So due to security reasons, we recommend everyone to use their own account, the personal account. However, if you are using your personal account and still cannot log in, you can always dial the EMA service desk, and then they will create a ticket on your behalf and assist you over the phone. But we tend to use that more for emergencies and stuff like that. Perhaps I can show a bit more about how to log in, if that will help. Just a second. Have a different browser open.
Okay,
so once that you try to log in, you will be presented with a screen that it looks like that. In here, you put your username, but it needs to be followed by the @id.ema.europa.eu. I hope this helps, because I notice sometimes people don't add this, and therefore they cannot sign in.
Marcelo, just a second. You're not sharing your screen.
Right. Okay.
Let me stop share.
Sorry, I thought I was still sharing it, but yeah, of course. Let me share the screen.
Yeah, you should be able now to share.
Share. Okay, can you see my screen now? So this is the login window that you will get once that you try to log in into ServiceNow. This is coming from Microsoft Authentication. So in here you put your username followed by the @id.ema.europa.eu. And then once that you click next, it will ask you for the password, and then it will ask you for the two-factor authentication. Basically, will send a message to your mobile phone to add a code. And we noticed in the past that sometimes people forget to add this, and that is why they're having problems logging in. But as the message said, if for whatever reason the account is still not valid, you can go to the register.ema.europa.eu account, and then in here you will be able to reactivate your account if that is blocked for some reason, or to recover the username or password, or to self-register if you don't have an EMA account. I hope this answers the question.
And if I can compliment here, Marcelo, I just shared in the chat the right link that should be used to reset the password. This should be done through register.ema.europa.eu. you will find the guideline then that will support you. However, if you still have an issue in access IMA ServiceNow, you can always send us an email on ServiceNow functional channel that we will share later with our presentation, and we will create the ticket on your behalf. But please, anytime that you submit a request like this, we will ask to share also screenshots of the error message that you are encountering. This will help us to investigate further. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much, both of them. Yeah, I don't know if you want to ask anything, Marcelo, or I can move to the next question.
I think that you can move to the next question.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah. Hope you can see now my screen. We have now another question is access to the new EMA service desk via two-factor authentication does not work from our company. How can we raise a ticket, contact the EMA service desk to solve the matter?
About this one, so by using company accounts, breach our security policies, and the multi-factor authentication is mandatory. We would suggest you to register with your personal account, access to ServiceNow, and submit a ticket called report an issue with an account to the service desk. This is the only way to get in touch with us, or at least with the security team and the service desk to talk about this specific topic.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. Let's move to the next one. So my EMA credentials are not accepted by the new service now. The password is correct, as I can still log into other platforms. When I try to raise a ticket with the old service desk, they just tell me to log a ticket with the new service now. I don't know if this is related to a question that we have already answered, but just in case you want to provide additional information.
Yeah, just again, even if the credentials that we need to use in ServiceNow can be different from the credentials of other platform within our agency. In this case, for ServiceNow, please make sure that you are using the username that you receive when you have completed the registration to the register IMA account link, also shared in the chat before, followed by from @id.ima.europa.eu. If you are trying to use, for instance, when you have the screen pick up an account, your personal email, that will not work, and perhaps can work on other applications, but not in ServiceNow. I shared the right email address in the chat. And again, if you have any other issue with these credentials, feel free to email us on ServiceNow channel, and we will support you there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next question says the access to the new EMA service desk does not work. In the guidance, it is advised to create a second EMA account. Is this even possible, as this is in conflict with the intention of EMA account management? Only one account per person. In principle, you shouldn't create another EMA account in account management. Is just that you need to request access to the new EMA service. It's just you are not creating any new account, let's say. So there is no conflict with this in principle. Yeah. Are we automatically registered for ServiceNow if we use the EMA service desk? Who to contact if we have issue to connect to the new ServiceNow portal, not recognized by EMA? I think we have already maybe answered to this question. Carmen has already, and Marcelo as well. Any question, you can go to the ServiceNow webpage. There's a link there. So they have also provided the email where you can raise any issue. Yeah, Carmen or Marcelo, I don't know if you have any additional input here.
No, not from my side. That are the steps that they should follow. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we can go to the last one. This is duplicate because it's the same as the previous one. Oh, so can we log in through same email ID, which we log in EBWeb, just like Service Desk? Please request you to give information about that too. I think you have to log with your business email. So if you are using with the same one, it should be the same email and the same username. So we don't foresee any problem here. Will the previous tickets open in Service Desk will be transferred to ServiceNow?
I can take that question. The answer is no, they will not be transferred. Basically, we call that as a backlog. So all the tickets that were created in Jira Service Desk will remain in Jira Service Desk, and they will be closed in Jira Service Desk. And if you need to add comments or input or something like that, that will also be done through Jira Service Desk. Only new cases will be created in the new ServiceNow Service Desk.
And maybe you have already seen. So what we are doing is trying to close the tickets that we have already opened in Service Desk. So you are receiving, if you have any open ticket in Service Desk, you are receiving the replies there, and we will manage to close the tickets there. And just as Marcelo said, the new tickets have to be raised in ServiceNow. So I think with this, more or less, we have reached almost the time to close the webinar. I think we have answered a lot of the questions that we have received, not only for ServiceNow now, but also for XEVMPD and the different procedures in the previous Q&A session. So we want to thank you very much for your participation. As we told you before, there will be a series of meetings and webinars for other services in the sport. So I think this afternoon we have OMS. There will be also a webinar for SMS and also for other services. So we really encourage you to attend those webinars. There will be a lot of information, and you will be able to also ask questions, and we will be happy to try to reply to all your questions. So thank you very much for attending the webinar. We will check the best way to share with you all this presentation either by email or we will also maybe upload the presentation into our webpage. I think it will be also available in our YouTube channel. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for your participation and all for all the questions and for everything. And see you in the next webinar.